Scene 1. Time April 1946. Place Nuremberg, Germany. Are seated at a table. Both are in their 40s. Attired in the black uniform of an SS. In a house dress. The driver, the woman gets up, stands in front of the table, and speaks to the audience.
His name is Rudolf. Auschwitz concentration camp. The war was committed crimes that were so wicked, so terrible, and on a scale so vast that it defied belief. In fact, there are some to this day that the events which took place at Auschwitz never happened. Mere fabrications. Well, you can decide for yourself what really happened in that awful place. Hurston, tell his interrogators from the International Military. What happened? What he did? How he did it? And why? Now Rudolph will tell you a little bit about himself.
Host gets up from his chair, walks around the table to center stage, and speaks directly to the audience.
My name is Rudolf Host. I was born in 1900 in Baden, Germany. I was the oldest of 3 children, the other 2 being girls. My parents were Catholic. I served in the German army during World War I and after the war fought against the Bolsheviks, communists. In 1922 I joined the Nazi Party. Murdered a traitor, and after which I spent 5 years. In 1934, I joined Weiss. Moved up in the ranks down to the Auschwitz concentration camp. I was down to Auschwitz from May 1, 1940, December 1, 1940, and again from June to August 1944. My wife lived with me in Auschwitz. What you hear today upsets you. But please keep in mind that orders are everything, and I was just following mine. Thank you.
End of Scene 1. Scene 2. Time April 1st, 1946. Place an interrogation room in a prison. Host is seated at a table with 2 interrogators, Mr. Sendar Jari and Lieutenant Whitney Harris. Host is attired in a prison uniform. Jari is wearing a business suit and Harris is wearing a military uniform. As the scene opens, interrogation is currently in progress.
Who else discussed the details of extermination of Jews in Auschwitz with?
I was not allowed to discuss this with anybody. It was a top secret matter.
Did Himmler give you orders about the construction of gas chambers?
No, he told me the following. That I was supposed to look at an extermination camp in Poland and eliminate in the construction of my camp the mistakes and inefficiency existing in Poland. I was supposed to show him plans of how I intended to construct my camp in a period of about 4 weeks. He told me that he could not give me the exact figures at the time, nor the numbers in which they would arrive, but added that the figure would amount to several millions.
And what did you do?
He explained to me that the most important matter was that when an action was being carried out in one of these countries, it was not to be stopped or delayed because of inadequate facilities at Auschwitz. He told me that camps in Poland were not suitable for enlargement, and the reason why he had chosen Auschwitz was because of the fact that it had good railroad connections and could be enlarged. It was also removed from centers of people, so it could be cut off from connections with the rest of the country.
And did he tell you anything else? You immediately after your talk with him, your rhetorical section?
No, I returned to Auschwitz. He explained to me that it was not his habit to discuss such matters with inferiors. However, this case was so important and of such great significance that he had decided to explain to me his reasons as they were as follows. He said to me that if the extermination of the Jewry did not take place at this time, the German people would be eliminated by the Jews.
Did he explain to you how the Jews would be able to eliminate the German people?
No.
What are the reasons?
That was the reason. He had planned originally to dispatch a officer to Auschwitz to continue this extermination action, but reconsidered because he felt it would only be a cause of friction to my sale, as the camp calmed down, and the higher-ranking officer in charge of extermination. Therefore, he gave me the orders in addition to that, the fact that I was supposed to treat this as a top-secret matter and not discuss it with anybody.
And then, before you went on your tour of inspection, you returned to Auschwitz.
I did.
And what did you do in Auschwitz?
I immediately got in touch with the chief of construction unit and told him I needed a large crematorium. I told him we were going to receive a large number of sick people, but I did not give him my real reason.
And then?
And after we had completed our plans, I sent them to the Weiss. After I had changed them in accordance with the real purpose of his instructions, they were approved.
Didn't you visit any of the 3 existing extermination camps?
Yes.
Which ones?
Treblinka.
What did you see there?
At that time, the action in connection with the Warsaw Ghetto was in progress, and I watched the procedure.
How was it done there?
They had chambers for about 200 people. Now, into these chambers, the fumes from an exhaust machine came in. And these motors had been taken from captured enemy equipment, such as tanks, trucks, and had been installed next to the gas chambers. They were run by gas, and those victims were supposed to be suffocated by the fumes.
How many chambers were there, and how many people were killed?
I don't know the exact figures, but there may have been about 10 chambers. It was built next to a ramp that had a train that drove right up to it. The people were unloaded right into the chambers, and this procedure was necessary because the motors did not always work right.
Weren't the people first registered or interrogated?
No.
They were put directly into the chambers from the trains?
Correct.
And what happened to their clothing?
That's undressed before they went into the
And
chambers.
their valuables?
That was all sorted. I saw a number of shacks there in which there were piles of clothing, shoes, valuables. All sorted separately and neatly stacked, and later packed.
And what happened to these things?
I do not know.
Who did the sorting?
Inmates.
Who guarded the trains in which the Jews were to be gassed alive?
The train that I saw in Treblinka arrived guarded by members of the security police. Also, the trains that came to Auschwitz were also guarded by the security police.
Did the train loads consist of men, women, and children all together?
All together.
And we're talking now about the train in Treblinka.
Yes, Treblinka.
Were there babies, very small children, and very old people also?
All kinds. If they were evacuated from Warsaw?
You only saw one train in Treblinka during your visit there.
Yes, just one.
How many people were on that train?
One train generally handled 2,000 people.
When you said generally, do you mean that the trains arriving in Auschwitz also had about 200 people?
Yes, 2,000 on average. Some trains held 2,400, others held 1,500 and 1,800, but the average was 2,000.
Was this the first time you had observed exterminations?
It was.
Now, I understand from your statement that the people, men, women, and children, had to strip themselves completely naked. Am I right?
Yes.
And the women carried their babies with them into the chambers?
Yes.
And did they know what was going to happen to them?
Yes, I assume so.
Did they know what was going to happen to them?
Yes, they did.
And what was your reaction?
I did not consider this a problem, or the means, or the manner in which it was conducted, because in my opinion, they knew what was going to happen to them.
But you found it lawful and right that they were to be exterminated. It was only the manner that you objected to.
Yes. According to my discussions with Himmler, it was the way you just stated.
Did anyone try to escape?
No one can see that.
How long did you remain in Treblinka?
3 or 4 hours.
Did you discuss the matter with the camp commandant in Treblinka?
I did.
Who was he?
I don't remember his name.
Just a moment. How did you get into the camp? What kind of a pass or a permit did you have?
I was introduced by Eichmann. They had been advised of my arrival by him.
Was Eichmann with you?
He was not.
Did you see Eichmann in Berlin before you left?
Eichmann had been in Auschwitz in the meantime, and at the time I told him that I had to see this camp. He should advise them of my coming. Otherwise, I would not be able to get in.
Did Eichmann have the power to let anyone visit the camp?
I don't believe so.
So how could he get the orders to let you in?
I assume that he had already received instructions from the Reichsfuhrer via Gruppenführer Muller.
Well, he was visiting you in Auschwitz. Did you discuss the plans with him?
Yes.
Then he was completely in the know.
Yes.
Didn't he want to go with you to Treblinka?
No.
Did
He returned to Berlin.
Pardon me. Did he take the plans with him?
No.
How did you send the plans to Himmler?
By courier.
Directly to Himmler.
Yes, personally.
Now, you didn't approve of the methods used in Treblinka, so you made up your mind to improve these methods. What methods were you going to use?
I wanted to avoid, in any case, that the persons who came into Auschwitz should know ahead of time that they were going to be gassed.
How did you plan to avoid that?
Now, at the beginning, I had to improvise because they didn't have the necessary buildings. Signs were installed reading to the lounge, to disinfectant, to the bath, the showers, etc. In addition to that, inmates helped the new arrivals with undressing and gave them instructions as to where they were to place their clothing so they would find it upon their return. It was done in order to avoid exciting them in any way or to give them an inkling of actually what was going to happen to them.
And after the undressing, where did the victims go?
They went into these rooms.
What rooms?
Chambers. At first, there were 2 old farms before the crematorium was built. They were made airproof. The windows were shut by cement, and airproof doors were constructed. In every chamber, there was a small hole through which the gas would be blown in.
What kind of gas was used?
Cyclone B. It was a crystal-like substance.
From where did you receive these crystals?
Now, originally, this cyclone B was used in order to gas rooms and to exterminate insects. Since it was very poisonous and had to be treated with great care, we assumed that it was the proper thing to be used against humans.
Was it long before the human beings were killed by this gas?
It depended on weather, humidity, time of day, and the number of people present in the chamber. Also, the gas was not always composed the exact same way every time, and as such was not effective.
Of course, but in general, how long a time did it take?
So it happened often enough. Generally, it took from 3 to 15 minutes. The effect varied. Whether the gas was thrown into the chamber, the people standing right next to it were immediately anesthetized. It gradually spread out to the far corners of the room, and generally after 5 minutes, one could no longer discern the human forms in the chamber. Everybody was dead after 15 minutes. And the chambers were open at half an hour, and not once was anybody alive at this time.
How were you able to hear voices from the chamber if they were so airproof, as you said before?
They were airtight, but the walls were not too thick. They were only ordinary walls.
So what noises did you hear while you were standing outside?
At first, they'll scream, of course.
Did you have any observation windows?
In the chambers made up out of the farmhouses we did, but we didn't later on. The crematorium, though, that was built in the concrete, we did.
Who delivered the gas to you?
A gas company in Hamburg.
To whom were the shipments of the gas addressed?
To the administration of the concentration camp at Auschwitz.
And who paid them?
I don't know. But I assume the administration paid for it. I'm sure they were paid.
When was the construction of the permanent gas chambers finished?
All 4 were completed in 1943, however, we were already functioning in 1942.
When in 42 was the first one put into use? It was there already perhaps in November of 1941?
No, 1942.
So these gas chambers, by which I mean the provincial gas chambers, were used from the summer of 41 up until 1942.
November of 1942. They were also used later on whenever the crematoriums were insufficient enough to handle the work.
Well, how big were the chambers in the crematorium?
They could accommodate about 2,000 people.
Each?
Yes, each.
When the people arrived in Auschwitz, there was a railroad station in the camp already, wasn't there?
Yes.
They were unloaded, or were they marched?
In the railroad station, there was a side track. The people stepped down from the trains, carted their baggage, and then were examined by the doctors and sorted.
Who were the doctors? What kind of doctors did you use?
SS camp physicians?
And according to what principles were they sorted out?
According to the principles of whether they were fit to work or not.
Now, you say a trainload consisted of, on average, 2,000 people. How many doctors did you have assigned to check on each trainload?
There were always 2 doctors on duty.
How many trains arrived daily?
The largest number of trains that ever arrived in one day I saw were 5. This was in 1944, during the Hungarian action.
But on average, how many trains arrived daily?
2?
4,000 people.
Correct.
And 2 doctors examined them?
Yes, they filed right by them.
So the examination never really took place. I mean, they just kind of looked.
Yes.
And according to which plan was the decision taken?
According to the order as to whether or not a man or a woman was strong and healthy.
And what about the children? Were all the children killed?
That depended on their stature. Some of the 15 and 16-year-old children also went to work if they were strong.
In other words, children below 15 were exterminated.
Yes.
Just because of Himmler's orders?
Yes.
And because they were dangerous to the German people?
Yes.
So a child of 3 or 4 years old was dangerous to the German people?
No. It isn't quite that way. I should have elaborated perhaps a little more on my statement before Himmler's explanation. He said the German people would not have carried rights unless the Jewish people were now exterminated.
Yeah, but that's just a confirmation of what you just said. The German people couldn't rise because of 4-year-old Jewish children.
Yes.
Well, in general, what was the percentage of the number of people killed and the number of people used for labor?
It varied between 20 and 30% that were set aside for work.
And this was the percentage with men and women inclusively?
Yes. There were always more men fit for labor than women.
Just to take an example, when you received 65,000 Jews from Greece, how many of them were found fit for labor?
The Greeks were very ill. They arrived in very bad conditions, so I believe the percentage in this case was about 15%.
Right now, let's go back to the procedure at Auschwitz.
Okay.
They arrived, they had been what you call inspected by the SS doctors. One row was marched into the camp, and they were the ones fit for labor, is that right?
Yes.
And the other row was marched into the farmhouses.
Yes.
Were they undressed?
Next were they undressed in separate shacks next to the farmhouses later on. In inclement weather other military barracks were used.
And then?
And then they were separated according to sizes and marched into groups into the chambers.
Groups of 200.
Yes.
And the people who remained outside, could they hear what was going on in the 2 farmhouses?
No.
How many people could be accommodated in each farmhouse for extermination?
The farmhouses accommodated in their various chambers 1 complete train treatment all at once.
You told us that after 1/2 hour the doors were open.
Correct?
Who removed the bodies?
The commando that worked there was primarily a commando of inmates.
And where were the bodies taken?
Behind the farmhouses there were open pits in which the bodies were burned.
And who took care of the burning?
The same commando took care of all of these duties.
And when 3 trains arrived on a day and the first train load was taken care of, was the second train set on the sidetrack until every trace of the first train load had been removed?
Yes. 2 trainloads could be taken care of at the same time. And in case a 3rd train arrived too early, it had to wait on the side track.
Who removed the bodies from the trains when they arrived? I mean, I understand that there were bodies in the trains when they arrived.
That was another commando of inmates who took care of that. They would be put on a truck and thrown into these pits for...
How many were generally dead? That is, how many of the passengers were already dead on arrival?
And that depends on where the train originally came from and how long they had been on their way. In the case of the Greek Jews, who had been 10 days in transit, more than 100 had died along the way.
And what about the Hungarians?
There were more.
How many more?
Varied. Sometimes the trains were composed of different parts. Sometimes a hospital had to be put on the train. In that case, of course, there were many more dead when the train load was from an agricultural region.
Do you know whether or not bodies were removed from the trains while in transit?
I never heard of that.
And these bodies, before they were thrown on the fires, was their clothing taken off?
It was?
By your inmates?
Yes.
What happened to the gold from the mouths of the victims?
It was melted.
Yeah, that I can understand, but was it removed from the victims before execution or after execution?
They were removed from the bodies before they were taken to the pits to be burned.
Who did that? Who removed the gold?
They were among these commandos of inmates, a few dentists.
Who supervised their work?
The work was supervised by an SS dentist whose duty it was to see that the work was done in a satisfactory manner.
And when did the victims take off their rings, bracelets, earrings, and so on?
They took that off at the time when they got undressed, with the exception of rings, which they kept on when they went into the gas chamber. Those were removed after the bodies were removed from the gas chamber.
Just a moment. Returning to the dental work, were their gold teeth pulled out?
They were.
Did you have any complaints from the surrounding villages about the smell from these pits?
Well, when there was an eastern wind, the smell could be noticed across the Vistula.
And you received complaints from the Poles?
No, they didn't complain. It was discussed among the population, but they didn't complain.
Well, this will be all for today.
Ingrid and 2 men enter the room.
Gentlemen, please don't hate my husband.
What we think about your husband is not important. What is important is that your husband be forthright with us so we can determine his degree of culpability in the crimes we are investigating.
I just ask that you treat him fairly.
We are treating him fairly. Which is more than can be said for the way he treated his victims.
I was one of those Russian POWs you received at Auschwitz, and you tried to work me to death. But I survived, so I can tell you to your face that what you did was wrong. And what's even worse is the fact that you knew better. You knew that what you were doing was wrong, and you still did it anyway. Outrageous!
I'm a Jew and you killed my entire family. For no reason other than they were Jewish. Like you. I was born and raised in Germany. I served in the German army in World War I. Paid my taxes. My children attended German public schools. We all spoke German. In fact, it was the only language we knew. My wife was even a high-level official in the Kaiser's government. Yet that did not stop you from murdering my entire family. Leaving me with nothing. Nothing! What do you have to say about that?
Gentlemen, I was following orders.
Rudolph, what did you do?
End of scene 2. Scene 3. Time, April 2nd, 1946. Place, same room as in scene 2. As in the previous scene, Rudolf Host and Sendar Jari are seated at opposite sides of the table facing each other.
Now, did the selecting of the able-bodied Jews take place in the building or outside?
Outside, as before I mentioned, when the train arrived.
That is, the Jews marched past the 2 SS doctors.
Correct.
So, when a train with 2,000 people arrived, 2,000 marched past the 2 doctors and they just nodded, this one to labor and this one to the plant.
Yes.
What kind of an examination was that? Was that a sufficient examination?
The doctor said that was sufficient.
Yeah, but were they real high-class doctors?
Not all of them. However, there were a lot of doctors around.
Well, they must have been exceedingly clever just to look at a person dressed up and still being able to say, oh, he's good, and this other one, he's a bad one.
That is the way in which it was done.
Have you ever been examined for military duty?
Yes.
And when that happened, did he just glance at you and then say you were okay?
No.
Well, what did he do to examine you?
I had to undress. He was closely examined my heart, lungs, other organs.
Well, did it not ever enter your mind that the people that you were to employ in your war industries and in your factories should be perfect specimens of manhood, physically strong and able-bodied persons?
Only those who appeared at first glance to be strong and healthy were selected.
How long did a laborer last on an average?
That depended where he worked and what he worked at.
How many hours a day did he work?
In an armament industry, 10 hours. It also depended on the route of the march from the place where they were housed. Also, whether they did outside or inside work and whether they worked in subterranean rooms.
And how much food did such a worker receive?
Those who worked in permanent industries received a normal food ration from the economic office. They also received an additional supply of bread rations.
Did they receive the same food as the guards?
No. The guards were fed according to military rations. The prisoners were fed civilian rations.
But the prisoner quota was so large that it did not matter whether or not the worker survived.
No, that is not correct. I was actually reprimanded repeatedly by my superior authority, Commander Pohl, who complained that not enough workers or men fit for labor were selected and used for labor purposes.
Yeah, but on the other hand, you received complaints from Mueller and Eichmann that not enough were executed, didn't you?
Yes, that is correct. That was the opposition or the contrast.
Which point of view won?
Pohl's view won. The armament industry needed so many men that it was made a duty of every camp commandant, no matter where he was, to preserve as many laborers as possible for the purposes of the arms.
But still, Auschwitz succeeded in exterminating quite a number, something like in the millions, didn't they?
Yes.
How many millions?
I again refer back to the statement made to me by Eichmann in March or April 1944, when he had to go and report to the Reichsfuhrer that his offices had turned over 2.5 million to the camp.
To the Auschwitz area?
Correct.
Only in the Auschwitz area?
Yes.
2.5 million, you say?
Yes.
Are you a little confused right now?
The reason why I remember the number 2.5 million is because it was repeatedly told to me that Auschwitz was to have exterminated 4 or 5 million.
That was not so. We had an order by the Reichsführer of SS to destroy all materials and numbers immediately, and not to preserve any records of the executions that were being carried out.
The 2.5 million were people delivered to Auschwitz. Were they the ones that were executed?
Executed and exterminated.
Then quite a number more were delivered to the camp of Auschwitz.
Correct. According to the percentage that I already mentioned, you would have to add 20 to 30% to reuse for labor purposes.
Were these 2.5 million gassed?
Yes.
And how about the 500,000 which were put to death by other means?
There were those who died from disease. There were also those who perished by other sicknesses in the camp.
Didn't you know what was going on in Auschwitz up until the last moment, even when you had left your position as commandant?
Of course.
You were with the administration and economic office, weren't you?
Yes, that is with a superior authority.
Mm-hmm. So you were promoted from commandant of Auschwitz to what?
As chief of an amt, or a department, and one of the departments as inspector of concentration camps.
Was that Amt 6?
Yes, that was in the Economic Amt Group D, in the Economic and Administration Office. That is, in an Amt group entitled Inspectorate of Concentration Camps.
People who were to be gassed in the permanent camps undressed outside these large buildings, didn't they?
No, there was a special group.
Just a moment ago, didn't you say they undressed in the outside?
No, the train wasn't loaded. They deposited their baggage. They were sorted out according to those fit for labor. And then the ones who had been selected marched away, and all the others undressed in an undressing room.
What was told would happen in there?
They were told they were going to be conditioned to take a bath and to be deloused and disinfected. They were signs corresponding to those institutions.
They undressed and put their things away just the same way you told us yesterday, as it would happen in the farmhouses?
Yes.
How many people could be gassed at the same time in one of the chambers in a permanent plant?
In one chamber, 2,000.
A whole trainload?
Correct.
And how did the gassing take place?
It was all below ground. In the ceiling of these gas chambers, there were 3 or 4 openings that were fenced around with a grating that reached the floor of the gas chamber. And through these openings, the gas was poured in.
And then what happened?
The same thing happened, as I already told you, happened in the farmhouses. It depended on weather conditions. If it were dry and a lot of people were in the chambers, it went comparatively fast.
How long a time did the gassing take?
As I already stated, it was from 3 to 5, 15 minutes.
And how would you know when they were all dead?
There was an aperture through which one could look.
And did you hear any noises from the outside?
Yes, but only muffled. Because the walls were very thick cement, it was almost impossible to hear anything.
And after how long a time were the doors opened?
After half an hour, as is the case with the other places.
And who went in to remove the bodies?
The detail of prisoners who were working there. I might add in that the installations of the plant's electrical ventilators were added, which removed the gas fumes.
Mm-hmm. But was it not still dangerous work for these inmates to go into these chambers and work among the bodies and among the gas fumes?
Of course not.
Did they carry gas masks?
They had some, but they did not need them as nothing ever happened.
Then the bodies were removed to where?
Into the crematorium that was situated above.
Did they have elevators?
Yes.
Where were the rings removed? Was it in the gas chamber itself?
No. There was an empty chamber outside the gas chamber, just before the elevator where the rings were removed.
And where they pulled out the gold teeth?
Yes.
How were the crematoriums arranged?
There were 4. The first 2 large ones had 5 double furnaces, and they can burn 2,000 humans in 12 hours.
What kind of fuel did you use?
Coke.
And the bodies were just shoved in, were they?
They were little barrels, as used in crematoriums in towns, and the bodies were pushed up into the opening and slid in.
Mm-hmm. How many bodies could one oven take or hold?
The double furnace could take in 3 corpses at one time.
Mm-hmm. How many minutes would it take before the body was reduced to ash?
It's difficult to say. When the full burning power of the furnace was still available, the process took place comparatively fast, but later on, after a lot of bodies had been burned, it was more slow. But then it also depended on the composition of the corpse.
What kind of bodies burned faster?
The heavy-set fat persons.
Did you get any fat persons or strong persons into the oven?
I do not mean strong bodies, but heavy-set fat persons.
Were you often present at these executions and burnings?
I was.
Why?
Because I had to do this. I had to supervise these proceedings.
Why did you have to supervise these proceedings?
To see that everything was carried out in an orderly manner.
Was it interesting?
No. Certainly not.
Why not? They were enemies of the German people who were executed, weren't they?
Yes, but the procedure was not one that one might take an interest in.
Yesterday, you told me that Himmler had explained to you that every Jew, irrespective of sex or age, was a danger to the German people?
Yes?
So it must have been quite a satisfaction for you, wasn't it, to see that the danger to the German people was removed so efficiently?
No. Certainly not.
You reported very often to Berlin, didn't you?
No. Never.
You never left Auschwitz after the execution on a large scale started?
Not to report about these proceedings.
Well, what did you report in Berlin?
I was called for a commander's meeting, but was called by my superior authority. My superior officer did the questioning, what they wanted to know from me, but I do not know today anymore what they were.
You remember in November 1942, you were in Berlin at Eichmann's office at a meeting of experts belonging to a section organized for the solution of the Jewish question.
Yes.
Did you give a lecture there?
No.
Didn't you explain how efficient the setup in Auschwitz worked?
No.
Well, who gave the lectures there?
Eichmann and various leaders from the countries of Belgium and Hungary and so on, whatever they were.
Did you give them maps to study? But in the turning to the meeting of November 1942, what did Eichmann lecture on?
It was the other way around. The various representatives of the different countries had to report on the conditions of their countries to Eichmann.
But in the presence of all the participants in the meeting?
Of course. It was more in the manner of a roundtable discussion. Every participant asked Eichmann what he was to do about difficulties that had come up. For instance, in France, it was asked what was to be done about difficulties that had come up with the railroad and the Wehrmacht, and so on, and these questions were answered.
What difficulties were there in connection with the Wehrmacht?
Mostly it was a question of transport and the Wehrmacht control of rail transportation. They did not always make rail stock available.
What was Eichmann's answer to all this difficulty?
He told them they should turn in their difficulties, that he knows them and he knew they might request assistance there. Besides that, the people at the meeting had to disclose how many Jews they had already evacuated, how many according to their estimate were still to be expected, and that was also the reason I had to be present.
Was the word "Endlösung," final solution, used at this meeting?
Yes, that was Eichmann's expression.
And what did that mean?
And that meant extermination, as I have already explained to you.
Can you state absolutely, definitively, what the word "Endlösung," final solution, stood for?
I can only tell you what I understand by it, because I understood it from the Reichsführer.
And what did it mean?
It meant extermination
Of whom?
of the Jews.
So that word or words, final solution, were used in this circle, which meant biological extermination of the Jews.
Yes.
And after this meeting, did you go back to Auschwitz?
Yes.
What was the next meeting you attended?
I never attended another meeting with Eichmann.
In 1943, were you in Berlin at a meeting where Eichmann explained to the different ministries or representatives from the different ministries what Endlösung meant?
I was not.
Where he explained that Endlösung allegedly only meant sterilization and evacuation of the Jews?
No, I don't know.
Did you ever hear of such a meeting?
No, this is the first I've ever heard.
Are you sure about that?
Yes. I only participated in one meeting with Eichmann, never at any other time.
You were never present at any meeting where representatives of the ministry were present?
No, never.
Why did you go to Budapest in May 1944?
Because I had received a commission by my superior, Gruppenführer Glutz, who had charged me to go there to find out how many Jews could still be expected for the armament industries that were to be started so they could know how many they should count on for manpower.
How did you find that out?
First, I received this commission of Gruppenführer Glutz. I got in touch with the Gruppenführer Muller in Berlin in order to find out information from him because he was the superior authority.
Just a moment. Was he the superior echelon for Glutz?
No, this has nothing to do with Glutz. He was the superior authority for Eichmann.
Why did you go to Muller?
Because Mueller had to be informed by his expert, Eichmann, onto how many Jews could still be expected from Hungary.
Yeah, how did Eichmann know that?
Because Eichmann was the competent man in charge with this question.
For what was he competent? I mean, Hungary wasn't Germany.
Yes, but Eichmann was in Hungary at the time.
What did he do there?
He was in charge of all the evacuations, the entire evacuation
What evacuation?
of the Jews.
But there were no German Jews in Hungary.
They were Hungarian Jews.
How could the Germans take care of the evacuation, as you call it, of Hungarian Jews?
I don't know.
Isn't that peculiar?
Happened in other countries too.
But Hungary was an ally.
I don't know the agreements that have been reached between the governments of these various countries.
But you knew there was an agreement between Hungary and Germany.
Yes, because otherwise they could not have been evacuated.
Have you seen any agreements?
No?
Eichmann tell you anything about any agreements?
Yes?
In the Hotel Astoria in Budapest?
No, I was never in any hotel, but I was in his office on Schwammenberg in Budapest.
Where did you stay in Budapest?
I stayed with Eichmann in his house.
Well, let's go back to Berlin and talk about Gruppenführer Mueller. What kind of information did he give you?
He could not give me any. He only told me that I should go to Budapest myself and get in touch with Eichmann and ask him about it.
So you went to Budapest?
Yes?
When was that?
I don't know, I can't give you the exact date.
Well, what month?
Spring 1944.
So when you saw Eichmann, what did he tell you?
He told me he could not give me an exact figure, but it was estimated that about 2 million Jews were still present in Hungary.
And all 2 million were to be sent to Auschwitz?
He said right away this estimate, in his opinion, was too high. He did not know how many there were, but he believed that that number was too much.
Did he feel sorry he couldn't get 2 million?
No, he merely said that wasn't correct.
How many did he expect to get from Hungary?
500,000.
All for labor purposes?
No. Eichmann had nothing to do with selecting those who were fit for labor. His office actually took no interest in this question at all.
They only had the interest of getting them exterminated, right?
Yes.
So Eichmann couldn't give you any figures. Who gave you the figures?
Nobody could give me any information.
Who was present at that discussion with Eichmann in his office?
As far as I know, there was Eichmann, Hunch, and Brunner.
And Ouspensky?
I met him later in Mungatz.
During your discussion with Eichmann in his office in Budapest, did you discuss the percentage of Jews who could be possibly used for labor?
Yes, that was the very reason for my trip.
How many persons did you estimate could be used from Hungary, of the Jews, for purposes other than gassing?
I didn't know at the time, I only found out later.
I'm not talking about the number of Jews you were going to get for labor or other purposes. I'm only talking about the percentage.
I cannot get any picture of that.
Yeah, but you had experience second to no other in the whole world as the percentage of Jews who could be used for labor. You had viewed Jews arriving in Auschwitz for years, and yesterday you mentioned a percentage of 20 to 30% were useful. Isn't that right?
Yes, but I also did mention that it was different for every country.
But you hoped, didn't you, that you would be able to get around 20 to 25% for labor?
I hoped even more than that. I hoped that in Hungary we should be able to use at least 35% for labor purposes.
Did you mention that to Eichmann?
Yes.
How did he like it?
He said that he couldn't form an opinion because he had not seen them, so he couldn't make an estimate.
What was your reason to believe that 35% of Hungarian Jews could be used for labor?
Because for a large part the Jews were people from the farms and from the agricultural districts.
So you were unable to get any definitive information in Eichmann's office, so you decided to take a little trip to the concentration camps and view the Jews yourself, right?
Correct.
Then, first of all, you went to Mungatz.
Yes.
And who was in charge there?
It was Zelensky.
Why was he there?
He was in charge for the total area of Mungatz, that is to say section number 1.
How was it that the German SS Hauptsturmführer was in charge of collecting Hungarian Jews?
That is not correct. The actual collecting and the imprisonment of these Hungarian Jews was carried out by the Hungarian police and gendarmerie.
Well, then what was Ouspensky's job there?
So, as far as I could find out, he was commissioned by Eichmann to determine that the collection and the gathering of the Jews were carried out in a proper manner.
What do you mean by a proper manner?
Proper manner was perhaps 2 functions. To see that the Hungarian police stayed to the agreements that had been reached between the various governments, but I do not know what agreements there were then, and all the Jews were collected.
Did Wissolensi have a Hungarian opposite number? Wasn't his name Ferenci?
Ferenci is the name I heard in Budapest. He was chief of the Hungarian field gendarmerie, but I do not know the name of Wissolensi's opposite number.
How long did you stay in Mungas?
1 day.
What did you do there?
I went out to the brickyards where the Jews were and had been collected, and took about 1,000 Jews at random, and with the help of Jewish doctors, selected those people whom he considered fit for labor in order to get an idea.
How many were fit for labor?
About 30% in Mungats, but there were many brickyards in Mungats and in the vicinity of Mungats. About 30.
So you went from one camp to another,
Yes.
and the average was about 30%?
Yes, the average for the area was about 30%.
And this was Sector 1?
Yes. I'm not quite sure that I can say definitely whether this sector was called Sector 1 or Sector 1V. It was the area Kropotvo, Ukraine.
And then you traveled from sector to sector in major investigation.
No, I only traveled to the south in the neighborhood of Danube. That was another sector. I didn't know whether number 1 or number 1V, but it was in the southern sector, and there was Danica there. He was in charge.
And what was the quality of the Jews there?
It was less good because there were more city people there.
And then you returned to Budapest?
Yes.
And reported to whom?
Again to Eichmann's office, and then I returned immediately to Berlin.
Did you see more?
No, I did not go there.
Did you see any well-known faces in Budapest while you were outside your narrow circle of collaborators?
I only went together with Eichmann to the Obergruppenführer Winkelmann's higher SS and police leader, because I had to report to him anyhow.
Did you meet Kaltenbrunner there?
I did not.
Did you hear that Kaltenbrunner was in Budapest?
No, not when I was there.
We'll finish now and continue the hearing later on.
End of scene 3.